Welcome to episode probably 2, but we're not 100% sure.
I hope to, because as you'll notice, we're wearing the same things.
Yes.
And we are literally recording this immediately after we
Yes.
recorded our Doctor Strange review.
Exactly. But episode probably 2 of The Screen Surfers. I am Andrew Sorsdahl.
I'm Francois Denation.
And yeah, we love all things media. We really like to review stuff. So we're going to come at you with another review of a recently released property.
Yep, literally just came out yesterday.
And Fran, you're the Trekkie. Why don't you introduce this one?
Yeah, so they... What's the best way to introduce this? So, like, I'm a pretty big Star Trek fan. Not like fucking die hard, wear the costumes, like know every line of dialogue. I can't speak Klingon, nothing like that. But it's like I appreciate the shows. They're comfort food for me. I watch them fairly often. I'm traditionally like a massive Next Generation guy. Like that's my favorite. Captain Picard is my fucking shit. He's like, if it's a world between Picard and Kirk, then I'm a Picard guy, not a Kirk guy. But I also love the original series. I love episodes of the original series. There's to me, there's a lot that aren't great, but like there's specific episodes that I think are phenomenal. Anyways, recently, the last few years, it's been a pretty cool time to be a fan of Trek because they brought a whole bunch of new shows into the fray. I think before this new era of Trek, I think the last big Trek show was called Star Trek Enterprise, which has the single worst fucking theme song of all time. And although the show is all right, I fucking loathe it and hate it because of how bad the fucking theme song is. It's maddening. Terrible. I need to say that. Scott Bakula. Love you, Scott Bakula. But holy fuck, the intro for that show is terrible. So anyways, recently, they've been doing a show called Star Trek Discovery, which a lot of Star Trek, like classic Star Trek fans have been fucking like hating and shitting on. I like it, but I like all Trek basically. Like I like the J.J. Abrams movies too. Like to me, it's a setting, and I like seeing adventures in that setting. I like seeing those characters do things. Like I'm not like a fucking religious zealot. When
Star
it comes
Trek,
to
that's the one with all the little teddy bear things running around.
Gungans, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one with the Gungans.
The Gungans and hey, there's a Star Trek thing right behind you there on
Gungans
the screen.
and the Watto. Yeah, that's one of the Wattos from Star Trek.
Yeah. They had their light swords slapping around.
Yeah, I'm gonna go turn that camera on quick. Yeah, I'm back. So anyway, we're in this new era of Trek where Star Trek Discovery is a new show. People are kind of like not great about it. I like it. There's also a show called Star Trek Picard, which is just about Jean-Luc Picard, which I've been really enjoying, but apparently critically the new season's doing really, really shitty, which is kind of surprising me. I've been enjoying it anyways. And then there's some cartoons and like more kiddie stuff. But more recently, they released a show that I think a lot of older Trek fans maybe are more excited about. It's called Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And it's a prequel to Star Trek the original series. And before the Kirk, couple of years before the Kirk days, I think, or maybe a couple months or something like that. But anyways, they're taking the original captain, well, not the original captain of the Enterprise, but the captain who was captain before Kirk, Pike. And he's the captain, and it's about their adventures in the Starship Enterprise. And so we watched the first episode yesterday, and I definitely have...
You have thoughts.
I have a problem with it. Mm-hmm. But I'm more curious to hear like you who's not like a huge Star Trek fan, like how did you find it?
Yeah, I'll just state right off the bat, I'm really not much of a Trekkie at all. I've tried. My mom actually is a big Star Trek fan. She grew up with it, obviously, and I've tried to get into it and watch it with her here and there, and just can never get into the show. And so Fran suggested that we watch this, and because it was, an interesting place to kind of enter into the world.
Yeah.
And I got to say, the first episode, I enjoyed it. It was overall, it was a really great experience. I'm no stranger to sci-fi in general. I like sci-fi. And I got to say, the big thing for me that had me able to just kind of stick with this is the quality of the technical aspects. Like trying to watch the old Star Trek is fucking tough for me.
Yeah,
I have no nostalgia,
Mm-hmm.
nothing for that. So like coming in cold on that is tough. But this looked great. The cinematography was, we commented as we were watching how crazy it is that television now, shows that are meant shot longer form serial stuff, looks, for all intents and purposes, not that much different than what you're seeing on the silver screen these days.
Absolutely. Like some shows look better than some movies now,
Oh, big time.
which
Yeah.
is wild.
So that's the first thing I noticed, and then just in general, I guess plot wise, yeah, like again, it's gonna take me a bit to get into the Star Trek thing, I think, but for someone who's been pretty averse to it, it was totally watchable and overall an enjoyable experience.
Yeah. I think the way I would describe this, because we just watched the first episode, the pilot episode, and I think the way I would describe it is it felt very much, to me at least, like you just took a random episode of like the original series and you watched it.
I could see that.
And so which I think to a lot of people that's like, that sounds awesome. That's exactly what I want. But I mean, I think something that people ignore, or I'm not sure what it is, but it's like, if you've been there and you've done that, you've been there and you've done that, you've seen it, it's you've already experienced it. And I think with a lot of the Star Trek fans that are like ultra vitriolic towards like Star Trek Discovery and Picard and some of these newer shows, it's like they want it to be the next generation, they want it to be the original series,
but it's different, and they don't like that.
Yeah, and it's like, and I get that they want it, like, and it's not just that. It's like I'm kind of straw manning them. Like they want to see new adventures in that same sort of in that same formula.
Yeah.
But I gotta say this, like those shows, like the original series, especially the Next Generation, they're like really comprehensive shows that like cover a ton of ground, and there's like tons of adventures, and so. And I know a lot of people, there's this show that Seth MacFarlane did recently called The Orville, which a lot of Star Trek fans have been praising endlessly. And I think I saw the full first season, and it's basically the Next Generation. It's the Next Generation, but with a lot more like toilet humor comedy. And it's a good show, but when I watch it, usually what the feeling I get is like, I'm like I'd rather watch the Next Generation. Like I like what. That's what this is. This is what this is trying to be. Is like it's trying to be the Next Generation. So like, why wouldn't I? Even from like the look and the set design and everything, I'm like, why wouldn't I just watch the Next Generation? And I know that's not fair. I've only seen like the first season. I know it has its own special episodes and stuff, but it's like sort of just a general feeling I get sometimes when I'm watching that show. And so I'll say with this first episode of Strange New Worlds is like I really enjoyed it. I think the acting is really good. I think the casting is good. They have a new Spock, who I think does pretty good. I still don't think they found the new Spock yet. Like they had, what's that fucking actor's name? I always forget this guy's name.
Zachary Quinto.
Yes, nice. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, Zachary Quinto in the J.J. Abrams movies. Yeah. I thought he also did a good job. But the thing that Zachary Quinto and this new actor who's playing Spock have in common that I don't think that the original Spock had really was like, these Spocks feel like they're on the cusp of emotion all the time, and that it's like sometimes they act out of anger and sometimes they act out of some of these other feelings, and it's like
feels like it's suppressed emotion rather than like, absence of it.
Yeah, it's like they talk, they say the right words, they talk about logic and stuff and whatever, but it's like I always felt like Leonard Nimoy, like it was like I am fucking thinking rationally. Like he'll behave in ways that maybe aren't rational for the people he loves, but it's never gonna be conveyed through his like voice or his what. If Kirk says I love you Spock, then it's like that sounds more like Hank McCoy, but still I love you Spock, then it's gonna be like I appreciate you as well, Captain. Like it, I don't know. There's this
deadpan thing. Almost,
yeah, there's this subtle different. There's this difference that Leonard Nimoy had that this new Spock's. They maybe more time needs to go by. They need to get into that role more, or maybe they're just doing a little bit of a different take on Spock, which is totally fine. But yeah, like I do like the actor they have for Spock, though. I think he's got a good look, and he's actually quite fucking cut. Should mention that. Good looking guy, good looking man. And they have an Uhura actress. We didn't really get to see too much from her, but I thought she did pretty good. The guy they have playing Pike, awesome.
He did a good job.
Yeah, I think he's a good captain. A lot of work he'd have to do to get to that Picard Kirk level, but it's like I like him. He's charismatic. I can see him maybe making his way up there.
Yeah.
I don't like him as much as Star Trek Discovery. They have a captain at the beginning of that show, and I don't want to like spoil anything, but he doesn't like stick around forever. And I loved him. He was fucking really awesome. But yeah, I guess I just like when I watch Star Trek, I like to see new things. And I think that's why I enjoyed Discovery as much as I did, was because it felt so different and so new, and it felt like this union of like the J.J. Abrams movies and the classic, and it worked for me. And I understand it didn't work for like 95% of everybody else. But I'm scared that maybe with Strange New Worlds, and I'm the only one who's going to be complaining about this, is that they're trying to course correct really hard, and like now we're just going to give you classic Trek, and which I'm down for. I hope that there's a way that they can infuse classic Trek with some freshness, so that I don't feel like I'm just like, well, this just feels like lost episodes of the original series, and I
can't get as invested in that. Yeah. I mean, again, for me, like, just because I'm not a big Trekkie and this is only the first episode, it's pretty neutral for me. Like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna get into it and throw it on myself, but like, in terms of watching it, if you ever threw it on and we were hanging out or watching it to review it, no problems there. But it didn't really grab me as but I attribute that more to the lack of knowledge around the whole thing in general. And I feel like I got to give it a couple more episodes before I make a final call on that. Because the first episode was a little not boring, but it's very Star Trek. Yeah, it was very safe. That's
I think that's like, it felt like it played it very safe. Like there was no jaw dropping moments in the episode.
No, the stakes were very low.
Yeah, but it felt like Star Trek. Like that's saying, it felt very, to me, it felt very like legitimate Star Trek. So yeah, my hope is that they're able to, the stakes. Like I hope there's some stakes. I hope some of these characters get, like, because I think maybe that's another thing, is like that classic Star Trek does extremely well. Is like I get really invested in the characters, like Commander Riker, Picard, Data, like Spock, like fucking Bones, like all these characters, you know them so well, they're so iconic, and you get so invested in their stories and like whether or not they're going to be okay, and are they going to make it to the next mission and whatever. And this show so far, and it's only episode 1, so what do you expect? But it's like, to be successful, it's going to need to be able to do that. I'm going to need to be able to care about Captain Pike. I'm going to need to be able to care about New Spock, Uhura. I'm going to need to care about the crew as much as I care about the crews of Next Generation Enterprise and Original Series Enterprise.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing the show. That's probably the main thing the show is going to need to be able to do to be successful. Right. And then what would be nice is if they told some stories that feel really original and feel like they have some stakes to them.
I will say, in classic Star Trek form, not that I'm a fan, but what I know of Star Trek, they did a really good job of making an episode that had a point that was very poignant to what's happening in our current world. Very much an anti-war, pro-peace, why don't we all just get along kind of moral or message to the episode. And that's obviously very poignant with everything that's going on with Ukraine and Russia and just the general state of chaos in our world right now. So that was very on brand and didn't feel shoehorned in, which was, I think that's one of the things that Star Trek originally was praised for, was, having a diverse cast and being very forward thinking on a lot of these issues and having it be organic to the show without feeling preachy.
Feeling forced, It always felt, they did it with tact, they did it with skill and good writing.
I think that they achieved that certainly with this episode.
Yeah. So I think if I had to like tell you what to do, like if you're a Star Trek fan, obviously go watch it. Like I think if you're a classic Star Trek fan, I think maybe the people to speak to would be like, if you're one of those people who are like super vitriolic towards Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard and like I also don't like the new cartoons. The cartoons are maybe, I don't know if they're geared more towards kids, but I tried watching the Lower Decks and
just awful.
It was so all over the place, and like I couldn't. It gave me anxiety. It was so rapid fire and so fucking whatever. I couldn't do it. But yeah, if all these new shows haven't like floated your boat and you've been hearkening back to like the next generation, and especially like the original series days, I think definitely give this first episode a watch and just see if it's lighting that spark for you. And then who knows, maybe this show is like, it will be an introduction to a new golden age of Star Trek. I don't know. Yeah, Star Trek fan, fuck it. Like, this is a safe bet. Like, it's not offensive. I don't think it's offensive to anybody.
And I guess speaking as the, not a Star Trek fan, I would say if you're someone like myself who's tried to get into the show and you generally are a fan of sci-fi, and you've always thought, I should really get into Star Trek. I don't have a final verdict, but it seems like this might be the way to ease into that or start getting into the Trek universe.
Yeah.
Time will tell. More, I'll be able to give you a better picture once we've watched a few episodes or into the season a bit more. But so far, I would say pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a great hopping on point, which can be tough with franchises like this,
especially ones that have been going on. They're so storied.
Exactly. So yeah, if you've ever like had a harkening like, oh, I kind of want to maybe get into Star Trek, this might be the time. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this review. We'll come back with a review for Moon Knight at some point, and
I think we're probably also gonna go back and maybe just give you a bit more of a perspective on the things that we really like across platforms, across media, so you can have an idea as to the other things that we rate highly or not as high, and that might give you a better idea as to why we feel the way we do about some of the newer stuff that we're reviewing.
Yeah, thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you later.